So what better group to bring together to talk about the latest film in the Dark Knight? I mean, you know what I'm saying. I don't know. Yeah. Cut that out.
In the Batman pantheon.
Do you want to do that again?
You know what? Here we go. Here, I'm going to run it back. And I'm going to do it in about 20 seconds.
Also, Sean, how could you wear a Superman shirt for a Batman review?
First of all, I don't own a Batman shirt.
Because
second of all,
Sean is Simperman. Get used to it. All right, guys. Thank you for joining four very tired boys here to talk about the Batman, with Robert Pattinson, directed by Matt Reeves. We've been waiting for this for a long time, and we have some categories here to go into. And this is your one and only warning. It's in the title. It's a spoiler review. We're talking full spoilers. If you want to catch our spoiler-free review, it's on the channel. It exists. It's about 11, 12 minutes, but we're going to be diving into this, and this is 3 hours of film. So let's get started. I know we all have our thoughts on it. It is a long movie. Feels much longer the second time.
Yeah, I co-signed that one actually.
Two of us have seen it twice, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That was the first thing I was going to bring up. Actually, is the length of the film and the pacing. I guess in a way, like it felt slow, but it wasn't slow boring. It was slow. Yeah. It was deliberately paced, I think might be the best description for it. Yes, because it was never like it lost my attention, or I felt like I never wanted to check my watch. And you know 30 minutes before the movie actually starts, because the previews, and then waiting through the credits for the end tag, whatever that was. But so you're sitting there for a good 3.5 hours by the end of it. And it never felt like it lost my actual attention, but it was very slow. It wasn't just boom, 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 action, action, action. It was paced intentionally. I think the best description I can give it.
So that man didn't warn you there's no end credit scene?
I didn't want to hear anything about it. I didn't ask nothing.
Oh, anybody that asked me, I told them. Like Allison asked me, and I was like, nope.
As soon as the movie got over, I busted my cell phone out, text Jesse, or actually text our group, and was elated with how much I loved the movie, and then immediately flipped over to search if there was a post-credit scene, so I knew I could get up and walk out.
I'm the sweet boy, and I let Jesse know. I'm like, because I'm a critic. I got my critic screening, and the first person I actually messaged with my reaction outside of the quiz show was Jesse here. And I told him, felt like a 3-hour animated series episode produced in live action to a certain extent, mixed with a little bit of 89, a little bit of Batman Begins. And I loved it. And there's no end credit scene. He's like, all right, cool.
Well, it's crazy, right? That a movie that's this grounded and gritty can feel so much like a comic book. And I hate to be the guy to make a lot of comparisons, but I probably will make a few throughout this video. The Nolan movies, to me, while they were grounded, they didn't feel like a comic book or a comic book movie to me. They felt like a movie about a vigilante character. This movie is as comic booky as you can get without feeling as cartoony as 89 was. I love 89, by the way, so that is not to besmirch that film at all. One of the things I want to talk about with you guys, because it was the first thing that we got to get excited about before we saw anything from the movie, and that was the cast. When they started dropping casting announcements leading up to this movie, it was like Robert Pattinson, which had a lot of people like, ooh, what? That's weird. But then I think everything after that was Zoe Kravitz, Paul Dano, Andy Serkis, Colin Farrell, absolutely, John Turturro. Everything was just aces across the board. And for those of us that have seen some other movies with Robert Pattinson, we're like, yeah, this is going to be solid. And Matt Reeves has not missed with a movie.
Well, don't forget to acknowledge the fact that originally it wasn't Paul Dano. Originally it was Jonah Hill, and then talks fell apart, and then went Paul Dano.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah,
I think that probably worked in the favor of the movie. And granted, if Jonah Hill had been, who knows how they would have treated the character.
I still think the character would have been treated the same personally, considering you look at his dramatic work.
But
that's
true. But Paul Dano nailed that.
He did. I'm not saying he didn't. I'm just.
Paul Dano's also more of a character actor, and I think less well known to the public. So one that can more easily disappear into the role.
Right.
If you did Jonah Hill, I feel like you would almost have to hide his face the entire film,
which is what
it could be
they
very distracting.
did, though.
I liken that to,
but I'm saying with Jonah Hill, you could not reveal it at all, ever.
I disagree.
I liken that back to when you found out that John Krasinski auditioned for Captain America. Could it have worked? Sure, but Chris Evans is Captain America, and could Jonah Hill have worked as the Riddler? Sure, but Paul Dano delivered an incredible performance, both behind the mask and once he's revealed.
Yeah.
The scenes in the interrogation room and then at Arkham Asylum. Oh, man. I fell in love with his character. The further it went in the movie, I just kept feeling like, man, this has got more layers and more layers and more layers. And I just wanted, to be honest, I wanted more of the Riddler by the end of it.
Yeah.
And
I agree with
that. To be fair, Anthony Mackie is now I'm sorry, I had to.
I apologize.
But no, I agree with you.
One quick question, because Jesse and Matt, you've both seen it twice.
Yes.
Were your initial reaction to the movie, I know, was both of high praise. Did that maintain after the second view?
Without a doubt, and grew, honestly.
For me, it did not move one way or the other. I said 8.8 coming out of it, and I still feel that. It's so many small, I don't really have a glaring thing about this movie. It's just I felt throughout watching, I'm like, ooh, maybe a small tweak and a small tweak. And that kind of
one issue. I had one issue.
Go ahead.
Not enough Alfred. That was my only complaint.
Yeah,
I think that's completely fair. When I thought that they might possibly kill him off in the middle of the movie, I was like, whoa.
Exactly. I remember sitting in my screening, I saw Fireproof. I'm like, they aren't doing this, are they? They aren't doing this, are they?
I immediately had the thought, Lord, please hope that oak desk was strong enough to shield him from the blast. Because I had the same feeling. And Andy Serkis, I thought, was a perfect casting. And I loved how they utilized him to be not necessarily the butler. Jesse and I were talking about this earlier today. Not being the butler Alfred, but more of the military, trainer, mentor kind of Alfred, which was awesome. And I loved the fact that he, even in their relationship, when he tells him, I could teach you how to fight, but I couldn't be a father figure.
Right.
He didn't know how to do that, but he knew how to do other things. And while we didn't get enough Alfred, I would loved a lot more. What we got, I thought, was perfectly utilized to forward the relationship and to build for Bruce and Batman.
Yeah. And the moment you see him on screen too, you see the scars, you see the limp, you can tell he's been through some stuff. And the scars looked relatively, at least the one on his eye looked relatively fresh. So I was wondering if they were doing some training or something beforehand. Before
and then also the
sequence started.
The fact that when they're talking about Thomas Wayne, he said his job was to protect them. He was the bodyguard for the Waynes,
right.
not
exactly
the guy answering the door and checking the mail. His job was there as a protector.
Yep.
He's like Jeff. The rebooted Alfred is the equivalent to the rebooted Jeffrey in Bel Air. I know y'all probably haven't watched that yet, but it's true.
And you guys will, by the time we wrap this up, you will be so tired of hearing me say Batman Earth One, because there's some clear and obvious things with Batman Long Halloween, potentially Batman No Man's Land, and Batman Ego. There's a lot of great Batman stories that are very popular that this took inspiration from. But I felt like one that surprised me that I didn't hear a lot of people talking about, but there's so many where I'm like, that's right there, was Batman Earth One, which I have volume 1, 2, 3. That's what they have so far. And this Alfred is absolutely Earth One. The Arkham Wayne's history, straight out of Earth One comic. You've heard me talk about it when I was doing comic recommendations on our News and Views show. And so to see that, it's something that I've always wanted. Even like the leathery kind of stitched together cowl is right out of that too. So I love that. So
more on the cast. What were you guys' thoughts? When they were first announcing all the people, Pattinson got some mixed mixed reactions. I thought he absolutely nailed the role. He's so many people, and this has been a theme for the last couple months. They're picturing the wrong actor.
Yeah.
And the guy who showed up on screen
is the guy who did movie. Good Time, is the guy who did Lighthouse, is the guy who did Tenet.
Yeah, fantastic actor, and finally got to bring. I think in my review that I wrote and shared with our group, it was like having a blend of the iconic role of Michael Keaton with the physicality of Ben Affleck blended together perfectly. The way Matt Reeves did it and the way he portrayed it was exactly what I would want out of a Batman and Bruce Wayne. It could have used more Bruce Wayne, but at the same time, what we got was spot on for the way this movie worked. They had just enough Bruce Wayne, where if it was too much of it, you may have lost some of the feel. And what we got of Bruce Wayne was perfect for advancing the character to the end.
So I disagree on there not being enough Bruce Wayne, and I say this because we're in year 2. This is someone still figuring out who he is, and we see the seeds planted that he starts to realize, I need to use Bruce as the mask, because he has a line in the beginning. I don't care about, Alfred's like, hey, I got the Wayne Enterprises accountants coming over here. Why do you have them coming over here? And he's like, because you won't go to them. He's like, I don't care about that. Well, this is your family's legacy. No, what I'm doing now is my family legacy. I don't care about if I don't have any money at the end of the day and this, that, and the other.
Because he felt that he was defending the death of the Waynes and stuff, thinking that he was defending some idol of his, which all came crashing down, which is, again, very important in Earth 1 and some of the more recent comics. What I really want to talk about Zoe Kravitz for a minute, because out of the cast, there were so many ones where I was like, "Oh, that's great casting." Her nails came out of her gloves. Her nails came out of her gloves, and I was like, "Oh my god!" Zoe Kravitz was the choice that it's not that I'm overly familiar with a lot of her work, but enough of her work that the second I closed my eyes and pictured her as Selena Kyle, I said, absolutely. Like the way that she's just got this jawline that could cut through steel. She has this like femme fatale nature just in life. Like looking at Zoe Kravitz, she looks like she could and should be Selena Kyle. So she carried the physicality through very believably. She had the vulnerability mixed with sensual nature. It's a lot to balance, and I feel like past incarnations have missed one side or the other or both. Michelle Pfeiffer got closest, but I think Zoe is now our Catwoman, definitively, at least for me, but I want to know what you guys think.
You're trashing Halle Berry?
Halle Berry was not Selena Kyle.
That's true. That's
correct.
true.
She was Patient Phillips. I think she was. She definitely melded every aspect of what you want Selena to be. She had the beauty where she could kind of work her way past like the members in the club. She could get herself in, use her feminine wiles to kind of seduce like the DA, Peter Sarsgaard, who I think no one knew was in the movie.
That shocked me.
Yeah,
he's such a good actor too.
Right. Then
he's not good in DC movies.
You can also tell that she was using like a bit of her own detective stuff in the beginning too, when she was working for the Penguin, and then working her way around to help her friend Anna. And then the action scenes, every time she had to face off against even a dude a foot taller than her, during the whole gunfight at the end with Falcone. And she was doing all the action. I mean, I'm sure there were stunt people involved, but all of her parts where she was on screen, she had to do the work. She killed it. She killed every part of it, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I was gonna. Never mind. Jump past.
Anything to say about Zoe? Scott?
Well, I just blanked. I had something when Sean was talking, but I lost it. That's all right.
We could come back to it.
Sorry. She was sorry. She was essentially, her and Batman are in the exact same spot in this movie. And one of the reasons it's so beautifully written is they're both vigilantes using their abilities for different purposes. she's trying to advance herself financially to get out of the situation she's in, but using her detective skills, her ability to pick locks, break into things, and figure stuff out for personal gain for her and her roommate. Whereas Bruce is trying to use the vigilante role to stop crime and to fix Gotham, but they're both in this stage of using their abilities, breaking the rules, breaking the laws, but doing it in a slightly different manner. But they're both in this early phase of who they are, that their characters are essentially just mirrors of each other in the development of this movie. It was really cool to see. And the way they played on their relationship, I at the end, I desperately wanted him to just grab her and hug her and not let her go, because she was what he needed in his life, to the point at the end when he is afraid, when fear grips him again and he's afraid that he's going to lose her because she's being attacked. And what I think is the pinnacle moment in the movie, when he jabs him, or as far as the action, when he jabs himself with the adrenaline shot to jack himself up because she's about to die, and he realizes that fear caused him to overcome the fact that he took a double barrel shot to the chest. Yeah. Well, he thought he had mastered fear, and then he almost lost Alfred. And then we see it resurface with Selena to the point he has to use, additional aid to get his body back to be able to fight, to defend her.
We had like 3 different times where Bruce was learning to have a heart and not just be this emotionless Terminator, which is what we see in the beginning of the film. He is a walking Terminator of fear and darkness and shadow for the first chunk of the movie.
Yeah.
Their relationship was believable in a way that the Nolan relationship felt super artificial. Like, I believed these two were struggling to try and help each other, to benefit, to build something, but they were torn as to how close they wanted to be, because both of them probably desired the relationship, but were also super guarded against falling into it.
Right.
And it was good. They used that perfectly for this movie.
Catwoman was also already in a relationship, so that it's a lot of gray area there. And only reason I say this is because Zoe Kravitz kind of hinted at the fact that she interpreted Annika and Selena's relationship as a romantic one, and that she played her Catwoman as bisexual, which I thought was very well translated onto the screen. And especially in the dialogue where she's like, Annika, baby, where are you? All that. So especially when you just lost your loved one, and now you just like it's one of those tricky situations.
Can I say one of the performances that I loved, but my wife Lauren really put as one of her favorites, is actually Jim Gordon, which we knew Jeffrey Wright was going to be incredible from the get-go, but his interaction with Bruce / Batman, I think, is a highlight of the movie and something that's not getting talked about enough. And I love kicking off in a year 2 situation with these guys. What did you think about Jeffrey Wright's? This time I want to ask Scott first.
I'll just say this: the interactions they had, it almost felt like it was a good cop, bad cop routine, which they pulled off later in the movie.
Cop, bad shit cop.
Yes. The dynamic, how they built their trust, and to the point that Gordon at one point, when he talks about all the people that are corrupt cops, and he says, "Do you trust any of them?" And Gordon says, "I trust you," and that's it. And that was one of those moments, like, okay, there's a bond between these two that, despite the fact that he knows it's against the rules, Gordon trusts Batman implicitly to bring him in, to let him see all the evidence, see all the stuff, and get his input. And I think his portrayal as Gordon might be my favorite. I mean, yeah, I'll take.
It was very accessible.
Right.
I'm sorry, I gotta say, this was the coolest Commissioner Gordon we've ever gotten.
Yes,
like he's cracking jokes.
When he says,
"This guy's
no
hilarious,"
guns,
he's like, "That's your bag, man, not mine." I was like, "Yes."
Yeah, when he says no guns and he says, "Yeah, that's your thing." Click, click.
I like the thumb drive. He's like, oh, this guy's hilarious.
I love when they're trying to kind of fake out the cops, and Gordon's using all his body language and like getting in Batman's face while he's like, "We gotta get you out of here. You gotta get you out of here." He's cracking me up. It was very subtly hilarious.
I like, you could have thrown that punch, man.
You could have pulled the punch. You could have pulled the punch. I did. Oh, you know what? I also love when at the end when Bruce is throttling that guy, and it's Gordon that grabs him and says, "Hey, it's okay."
Right.
Yeah.
Like to stop him because he's in that adrenaline overload. And when they pull the guy's mask off, I'm like, this is going to be mangled. And the guy's jaws swollen in every direction.
His nose is like broken 6 ways to Sunday.
It's so bad. But I love that it was Gordon that reached up to stop him, to calm him down, even showing another layer to that relationship where Bruce...
Dude, he's going to nap for the next week.
Jim. Oh, dude.
Makes me more excited for that Batman, for the first spinoff show, because apparently it's more of a Gordon show.
That's what I was going to bring up. I mean, I don't want to detract too much from the cast, but just taking a brief second to say we're getting a Colin Farrell Penguin show. We're getting a Gotham Central or Gotham GCPD.
Gotham PD, and the central focus is supposed to be Jim Gordon from what's being reported. So,
the focus being Jim Gordon is confirmed. There's I haven't seen an actual title card, so I'm just assuming
it's taking place in year 1, so we may see Robert Pattinson's Batman pop up here and there's what
that would be great.
We're going to see the prequel to this Jim Gordon, and Ben McKenzie's coming back to play the earlier version of Jeffrey Wright.
Well, why not? Leslie Grace is J.K. Simmons' daughter. So,
I mean, I guess the reason I'm really interested in that is because like we get to see that relationship form now, because you can tell they already have like a very nice, well-knit relationship. So to now see that form is going to be what's interesting to me. See how they started off to how they got to where we got in this film.
And that's one thing that leaves me wondering. Not necessarily that I need to know or need to see, but I'd like to see, why is it that Gordon is the only person who is going to bat for Batman, and actually like bringing him into crime scenes and giving him a chance to do his own detective work, and everyone else is like, what is this guy doing here? Oh, don't worry, I'm vouching for him. So where did that trust come from? Where did it build?
I love the guy Martinez who calls him a freak at the beginning, and by the end he's helping him dig out the stuff in the room.
That's exactly what I was about to bring up, because Martinez is like 180.
He gave him the tip about the carpet.
Yeah,
the carpet puller.
It's like it's a carpenter tool.
Yeah, it's a carpet stretcher, so you can get into it's a tucker. And when he tells him that, he's like, what? And that suddenly clicks the light bulb to rip the floor up. But had Martinez not been there, and Martinez couldn't stand him at the beginning of the movie.
Right.
And I laugh because Martinez, when he meets Batman, is like freak, but he sees Bruce Wayne. Mr. Wayne!
Hey, Bruce Wayne! Yeah.
What is
reminded me a little bit of Flash
from
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
What's up, Dickwad? Yeah.
I loved this is getting off, but I loved the type of riddles that the Riddler used. Not overtly complex, but enough. But then he hid them all with cipher stuff to make it just these are things you can figure out. Yes, the layers to it. Everything had something behind it.
Answering the riddle was not the riddle itself. That is part 1 of every one of the riddles.
It was the key.
To figure this out so that you can figure out something else. And
it was the key to the question following it.
Absolutely.
Speaking of one of the answers, the first answer to the riddle, what it was, or one of
he lies still.
Well, no, whichever one of the riddles was the a rat with wings.
Oh,
I immediately right, but I immediately thought a bat, because that's what I never thought pigeon, and then the penguin, and then so they got there after me, but I didn't put all the pieces together still, but I was just like, oh yeah, that's a bat, and then they went towards a pigeon, and I was like, all right, I guess you can go that route with a stool pigeon.
Pigeon, because a flying rat is what people call pigeons, because they eat garbage all the time.
I immediately went to a bat.
I immediately went to, it could be, I immediately went to, is it the penguin? Or it's a bat, because a bat is also called a rat with wings. But then also my brain was like, well, but Falcone, and so literally, it's one of those ones that hint leads to it's pointing a finger at many people within the movie, and causing you to you're constantly guessing which one all the way through.
And I love that the two of them basically monologue at Penguin, like they got it all figured out. And he's like, "What are you, nuts?" So that's a good transition. Actually,
I had to
Colin Farrell.
I had to tell my kids about Colin Farrell. So I'm like, when you see the Penguin, you would never know it's Colin Farrell. And like, who's Colin Farrell? And luckily, they had that little the cast before the movie. Just talking about it and welcoming people to watch it. And when I said, okay, boom, there he is, Colin Farrell. And they go, oh, I remember. I've seen him in other stuff. I'm like, yes, he's the Penguin. So when you see the Penguin, you don't know who the heck it is. That's him. And I love that they only called him Oz, not Oswald, nothing else. He's just Oz and the Penguin.
Oz or Penguin, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Colin Farrell killed it. And I think, and I had heard maybe minor reviews, maybe it was like rumors or whatever. Oh, he's barely in the movie. He was in it just as much as I think he needed to be. He played every piece of screen time he had perfectly, but it was the Riddler's movie. There was no point in having a Penguin be the big bad, especially when you get towards the end, and they absolutely set him up to be the new crime lord in Gotham. You know he's gonna, and obviously he's getting his own show, and possibly he'll be the bad guy for the second movie or whatever. So I think that they. Every piece of screen time he had was top notch for me.
And at the end of the movie, Jesse, you had commented after seeing it before anybody else that you felt like it was the first part to a trilogy. It had that feeling, and they laid it wide open for it's a no man's land, and then the Penguin just sitting here with this criminal empire left in his lap to take hold.
They said there's basically going to be a bloodbath and a power vacuum, and I'm like, that is such a good spot for a part 2 for a next movie. And I think that doesn't work if you don't have Batman stumble and fall and not have a true success. And think about it, I hear a lot of people like, oh well, he didn't succeed. The Dark Knight wasn't a full success. He stopped the Joker, but only just because Harvey Dent got corrupted, became Two-Face, and Gotham lost its White Knight. And I think failure is a great teacher, as Yoda said.
Not only was it a failure, he went into hiding for 7 years.
Yeah. So, is there any... We talked about the Riddler.
John Turturro as Falcone was outstanding. I thought he did a great job. Yes.
I don't think... I didn't even realize he was in the movie until maybe like a week ago. I think I saw...
Really?
Maybe I just missed it. I just didn't even realize.
It's okay. I was trying to avoid a lot of stuff. I was trying to avoid a lot of stuff from the movies. I thought he would have a smaller part.
Yeah, I did too. I thought he was going to be in a scene or two. But the story, so much of the story and the mystery really hinges obviously on Falcone. He's one of the final pieces to the puzzle.
Yeah.
So I love that. We praised Paul Dano, but we didn't really go into depth on the full performance, I think. Is there anything that you guys, Scott?
Yeah, I just want to say, for me, this is on par with Heath Ledger's Joker.
Agreed.
I absolutely loved everything he did. Did he have as much screen time as Heath Ledger in the Joker? No, but I tell you what, the performance he gave, I walked out of there going, I was just as much in fear of this character. And I ended up falling in love with his portrayal of it and how he crafted it. The whole Zodiac thing, the way that he pulled in all the lookalikes at the end in order to build the story. I feel like this is equal to, and if it's not equal to, it's so darn close to Heath Ledger's performance as the Joker that this will be praised down the road for a bit. Yeah, Paul Dano absolutely crushed that role.
Agreed. Read around the board.
Speaking of his Riddler, has anyone actually gone to ratalada.com?
No.
No, but I read an article about the whole what it shows and what's there and things. It's interesting.
I need I got it. I'm just trying to I got the reward, but it needs a password to open the reward. I'm like, what the fuck?
If you go to comicbookmovie.com, all the answers are there.
I figured it out. I'm just trying. You need a password to actually open the reward. It lets you download. And I'm just like, okay.
I think that's on there. But anyways,
the question is, do you really need that?
Right. Is there a way around it?
Moving on from cast, I think we covered most of the bases there. The action, it was kind of spread out throughout the movie. I think you have about four good action beats, maybe in a 3-hour film, and I think they all stick out to me. But there is some time in between them. We get a few different fight scenes, and then we also get that epic car chase, which I think is possibly one of the best action scenes in a Batman movie. The BVS warehouse scene will always be top 3, I think, for eternity. Mm-hmm. But I want to know what you guys thought of the action overall. Sean, I haven't started with you on many of these yet, so what'd you think of the action?
The action was brutal, and that might be the best word for it.
Or unrelenting.
And unrelenting vengeance. Right from the beginning, when he goes those clowns who are dressed up in whatever kind of clown makeup, I wonder where they got that idea from. Something we'll find out in the future.
If anything, those looked more like Penguin's goons from Arkham games and whatnot. So
yeah, for sure. And then you said I'm trying to think. So then we get the GCPD scene when he flies away or glides. Well,
there's also the club.
Yes,
when he comes in there looking for Oz the first time.
Yeah, just decides to just walk right in.
Oh God,
he's like, I'm coming in the front door. You're not going to stop me. I'm going to beat
I think it's another part of him learning is like we see him just like, you know who I am. Let me in. I'm like Bruce going through the back door or something, or going through a chimney or something. Just the front door, the balls on this guy.
That proved to be a key point though, because that breaking that cop's nose. Made that cop recognizable later in the movie as a dirty cop.
Yeah.
But gutsy to walk in with all those people.
Where it's like, oh, that's the guy I got into it with. I broke his nose.
Hey, but, I can recognize the guy.
I thought you were saying, John.
I liked the car chase scene. I think it went on just a little too long. In certain parts, like they could have trimmed it by a hair, but just because it's like, okay, we see him sliding around the water, or he's going around the trucks again. And then they totally telegraphed the jump
cameras
because
in that scene,
the cinematography of it was fantastic. It looked
Greg Fraser killed it.
The whole movie looked fantastic, but so there was some beats, and that's kind of where in general where the movie kind of takes it down a notch too is other ways where they kind of trim some stuff, and that's a deterrent in other aspects as well. But same thing with that specific sequence. But overall, the action was great, and I loved his fighting style too, his brutal, unrelenting fighting style where he's just coming forward. But at the same time, and it's not all prose, I thought he was too indestructible. He was too much of, he was taking gunshots everywhere and never seemed to he got dazed but never injured. He was never hurt. He never seemed like he was in any peril, because even when the guys come in with the rifles at the end, I was like, oh, that's fine. He's just going to take all the gunshots. So that part didn't work well for me.
The amount of shots he took, even getting blown up, he's literally standing face to face with the guy when his head gets blown off, and it launches him back. Didn't get burned on the face. No damage to his jaw.
Right.
His hearing shouldn't be so good anymore.
No, and he gets. There were a couple things like that where it's like, all right, you could pick on him. However, I will say a little too indestructible. But the elevator scene in the club, when he comes out of the elevator and just starts when he's doing the Ben Affleck hiding in the top corner, pinned to the ceiling, and then drops in and just starts mowing him down. The only lights in that whole sequence are the muzzle flash. And I text Jesse, and I think I even sent it to our group. It literally had me feeling like Rogue One when Darth Vader walks down the hallway, murdering everybody. The intensity of that sequence as he's just walking through, pounding everyone, getting hit, getting shot, and taking them down one at a time. Man,
we love our hallway scenes.
Yeah,
that, and I love the smoke screen when he blows up the fire extinguisher at the end, comes leaping out of the smoke. There were a couple of the action sequences that were just too good. I mean, they were literally video game and comic type things and cartoon things that you got to see on live action on the screen that made you just, I was gripping my seat and giddy watching some of this stuff because it was so well done.
Right.
Yeah, were there some beats with it? Maybe the car sequence, did he need to bounce off all 17 semis that seemed to have appeared? Maybe not. And the fact that the empty trailer with a ramp just happened to fall in front of him, at least they showed that he ramped off a trailer and it wasn't like a regular movie where suddenly the car's flying through the air off of nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
But when he hit the turbine, and launched off of that thing, and then when he landed, he kept bolting onto him and nailed the Penguin's car.
With the sound design, the first time I saw this movie was in IMAX. The second time was in Dolby. Dolby's the way to see it. A big screen's fun and everything, but having your bones rattled by Giacchino's score is something else.
I got to see it in Dolby, and they even have the curved screen at the AMC 14 in Kent Station, and I will be going to watch Dolby as much as possible because every punch, when the motor for the car fires up, you felt that in your chest.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Whew. It was
I
so
saw it in a 4DX theater, and I didn't get the 4DX seat though. I should have, or they call it D-Box, I think is Cinemark's.
Yeah, it's called D-Box.
Yeah,
and I hate you all because I live in Ohio and we don't have that nice stuff around. I just had normal XD to go to.
There's only so it was normal XD for me because I didn't get that seat. There's only like 12 seats in the theater of 100 people or whatever it is. But that scene where they introduced the car too, was that supposed to be played for comedic effect? How the car shuts down
when he kills the motor?
When he kills the motor,
Yeah, it's a little bit in it.
Was it just for dramatic, like giving him a chance to run away? I don't know.
I felt like watching it the first time that he stalled. Yeah, he stalled the motor.
Okay, that's what I
the
thought.
Engine stalled because I think the turbine just like had a lot of power whenever he like went to take off. Because if that didn't happen, he would have had Oswald in 2 seconds.
Yeah, exactly.
So it gave him like a quick second to hop in his car and go. It wasn't intentional.
I laughed. No one else around me laughed. I just not like audibly. I just went like a chuckle, but no one near me did the same thing. So I was like, oh, maybe I took it the wrong way.
I've been driving a stick shift my entire life since I've been driving for 24 years. I learned how to drive on a stick shift, and I killed my truck the other day just because it was cold, and I was like, damn it, like it wasn't warmed up enough, and I tried to get going too quick, and then thump.
Yep.
So I felt him in that moment, like. That's so disappointing. He had the scene was set perfectly. Everyone's freaking out because his car's sitting there with his lights shined on him, and then he killed it. And it's the womp 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 moment.
That was our reminder that he's still working out the kinks. This is definitely, you could say, the working out the kinks Batman movie.
Right.
Matt, was there anything about the action that really stood out to you, or any particular moments?
Realistically, Scott covered my moments. There's not a lot of action in this movie compared to a ton of other Batman films, and I was totally fine with that.
It is a detective movie with action.
Exactly. I was there. To me, the definitive Batman has always been Batman the Animated Series Batman, and he wasn't always fighting people, and that was something I had to educate my 7-year-old godson, who I took to see this movie on Wednesday with, because he was like. He's like, yeah, I liked it, but Batman wasn't really fighting anyone. I'm like, Batman doesn't really fight anyone in general. He figures his stuff out, and then there's a fight at the end. He's like, no. I'm like, yeah, you're 7. I'm 27. Shush.
I think, Batman's a lot of things. He's able to fight, but that's not, he doesn't usually lead with it.
Right.
It's the, Detective Comics, the world's greatest detective. That is the identity of Bruce Wayne.
Did Scott freeze for anyone else?
I'm still here. It's just a camera glitch.
Gotcha. I was like,
Let's talk about the heart or the soul or the cojones of the movie. Matt told me not to, but I did it anyways, and I listened.
It was already. It was too late already. You had already told me. Don't forget that fact.
I'm just saying I continued to listen to it still after you told me not to.
Well, you had already listened to it at that point, so there's no point in not doing it.
I was waiting for it. Anyways,
I intentionally avoided it so it didn't ruin any of the high points.
Yeah,
I wanted nothing to ruin it.
I haven't listened to it through yet, but I will be soon.
I felt blessed because the score came out the day after my screening.
Okay.
So I was like, I can enjoy this and not have it ruined. Yes.
Ever since Phantom Menace, I'm always weary about looking up scores before. And
luckily, these are all just puns.
It's been 22 years, but I'm still.
I would like to know if
Jason knows 3 years.
I want to know if he named all of these tracks because they're all hilarious puns. Like "Road to the Danger Zone," I think is one of the songs. I think that's the car chase one.
No, Road. Let me see. I got it right here on my phone. Actually, because I was listening to it earlier.
Scott, how did you feel about Giacchino's score?
It did everything it needed to do. There's nothing I hate more than when an emotional moment misses. Mm-hmm. And when the timing of the first Rocky movie won the Best Picture because the music, the score, and everything, when he knocked out, or at the very end, those last punches, they all came in and they were timed so beautifully with the music that's what won it the Academy Award. It built the moment perfectly. This movie, the score builds the moments perfectly. There wasn't a beat off on anything. Every emotional moment hit exactly right. You can disagree with me on that. That's fine.
No,
but that's the problem with listening. No. That's the problem with also listening to the score in advance. I was hearing it all fresh for the first time in play.
And that's why I told a certain someone to not listen to it.
It was so good. And I love the use of, they didn't use a lot of songs, but the Nirvana tracks were
There was only one Nirvana track, sir, and it was played brought multiple times.
Yes, but that song.
I love that just within the first viewing and also in like the trailers, the theme for this Batman is now established, and it is very Terminator-esque.
It's Terminator meets 89. It's Terminator meets 89, and that's why I love it. It's my favorite Batman theme.
Hans Zimmer had a great score, but it didn't have an identity the way this one did.
Yes,
I feel like it was good. It's cool to listen to. It's great to work out to. But nothing about it screamed Batman. The Danny Elfman score, it's very Batman. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like this is now our new Batman theme. And I like it. I think it fits this one. And I like throughout the movie, you get it in different ways, like with different instruments, but you still hear the theme in the background. Anytime you see Batman, you get some variation of this theme. So it's already firmly implanted in our brains.
His theme was haunting to me, and it reminded me of Jaws.
Like he's the predator.
And
I don't mean the alien predator. I mean like he is a predator to
criminals. But that's what that's why that movie is so iconic. You know, the shark didn't work, but you had that score and you had the editing to build the suspense on the stuff you couldn't see. And I felt like the score worked very similarly in this aspect.
And that's why editing should be awarded its fair share at the Oscars, people.
Yes.
And scores as well.
Exactly.
It all worked for me. I can't wait to listen to the whole soundtrack for sure.
Something I want to bring up because I brought it up briefly before the show. I'll try to do cliff notes of it, but we talk about scores, and with scores come soundtracks as well. And there's not a lot of licensed music in this. Actually, it's one song used twice. There's Something in the Way by Nirvana, which we were introduced to, I believe, the very first teaser trailer for the Batman when they're only a few weeks in. Matt Reeves knew going into the project that he wanted to have some Kurt Cobain inspirations. We see that in Bruce, and we feel that in the movie. And one of the reasons I was saying that I think it's so perfect is because Nirvana really came on the scene in about 1988 and went on to about 1994. Obviously, their legacy continues, but it was right around the time that there was a big tonal shift in comics with Batman. Once The Dark Knight Returns, Frank Miller's comic came out, people started taking it more seriously. That was about 1986. Hence why in 1989, Tim Burton did our first dark interpretation live action of Batman, and then we got the 90s show cartoon, which is, even though it's kind of kid friendly, it's still dark and it's still more so inspired by that era of things. So I think having a band, like if you want to describe this movie in one word, you could say grunge. It's a grungy movie. So I thought the use of Nirvana was really cool. It would be nice if seeing what we did of maybe Joker Riddler stuff, we get a little bit of like, here we are now, entertain us in the second one. I think that would be a cool addition. But
they're just gonna keep reusing the same track like the new Star Trek, the J.J. Abrams Star Trek. Just kept reusing
Sabotage over and over again.
Over and over, all three movies.
Stop. Do not besmirch Sabotage in Star Trek. You hurt this motherfucker. Sorry for my language. I don't stand for the sabotage.
In doses.
I do not stand for the sabotage. Just slander there, sir. I cannot stand by that.
Go ahead, Matt.
No, this soundtrack was just everything I wanted it to be. Like, yes, we all listened to the singular Batman, Riddler, and Catwoman tracks leading up to it.
Nope.
And then, really, I'm shocked. But what I liked was how you saw them expanded upon within the film and how the different variations of it within the score. And it was so beautiful.
I love that Catwoman's theme was so many different things, but they were all quintessentially Catwoman.
Yes.
Moving on from the score, hopefully Sean's camera finds its way back. Were there any things that you weren't expecting or any real surprises, anything that comes to mind for you guys immediately?
That scene.
Are you at the end?
Yeah, because I'm not gonna lie. That one scene, I know it's spoilers, but I can't bring myself to take that scene away from anyone, period. I had resigned myself to the fact I'm like, oh, okay, it's not happening yet. Or if it does, it's going to be the post-credit, yada, yada, yada. The thing I love about Matt Reeves is he's like, nah, screw post-credit scenes. We're just going to put it like right there, right at the end for you.
There's definitely 10 minutes of like, here's all the different directions this Batverse can go. Catwoman can go this way. Penguin can go this way. These two characters can go this way. We could have a sequel. We could have spin-offs. Like, yes. And it was, for the most part, felt fairly natural.
Exactly.
And so I loved that. There were so much rumors of said person showing up as said character. Even said actor's brother putting out on Twitter that they are playing this character. And even at that point, I was like, I don't believe you. Like, I was still in I was like, I don't believe you.
There was never anything from like a trade or anything about it. So I'm taking this with a major grain of salt.
Right.
And
welcome back, Sean.
I've been here the whole time. My camera keeps dying for some reason.
Oh.
Yeah. And then that scene happened, Jesse, and I was just like, I just remember the message I got from you that late at night. After you saw it, you're like, we're about to get a demonic looking this character out. I'm like, yes, we are.
We'll just say a villain is going to be Irish in the future without giving away.
No, he's American. He's American.
That sounded pretty Irish to me.
Sir.
I think you might have been listening to hear the Irish in there, but
I thought after watching it twice, it sounds the same as he did in another movie.
It does not at all.
I didn't pick up on any Irish when I heard it the first time. What I heard was, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're pulling this off right here in front of my eyes.
I heard, oh my gosh, I can't believe it doesn't have an Irish accent this time.
What gets what gains in value when you have less of it? A friend. That line right there, riddle me this. When he pulled that, okay. I don't want to give any of that away, but I'll say the other surprise from the movie.
Felt like Long Halloween. It feels like they're going to continue Long Halloween by having villain-dense films, and Matt Reeves already shown he can pull it off and like shift the focus around. So I don't think that character is necessarily going to be the main villain of the next movie, but like there could be a duo, there could be multiple levels of things going on. Long Halloween is a juggling trick of Batman dealing with his entire rogues gallery pretty much in different situations, and I think this trilogy is going to play with that, and maybe we see some of that in the Arkham series that was brought up recently that Matt Reeves is looking to do or be involved in, at least.
Not to be confused with that piss poor version of Long Halloween we got in a 2-part animated movie.
Yeah, well,
those
Jensen
animated
Ackles
movies
got to be Batman, so that's fun.
Yeah, those animated movies are disappointed lately, whether it be Hush or that.
I was big on them for a while, and they started falling off.
Because they tried to. Do you want to know why they were good before? Because they were just doing straight up adaptations, and now they're trying to take liberties with them, and it's like, no, do it.
Yeah, Bruce and Barbara should not have intimacy. Scott, were there any surprises that stick out to you about this movie?
Yeah, two of them. One, when they tried to knock off Alfred, I was like, I was really upset. I was like, you got to be kidding me. And then, and I've already touched on it, but when he gives himself the adrenaline shot, I was jacked up for that. It got me really pumped up because that's the kind of thing like that would be a real world adaptation to where this guy's just been put through it. The double barrel shot to the chest that basically knocks him out. And he even tries to pull his mask, the cowl off, and Selena has to tell him. Selena tells him, "No, it's okay. It's okay. You're all right. It's okay." And then when she gets grabbed and he has to jack himself up to get back up, that moment was so intense. And to see him have to use an additive to get himself back up to be able to fight was awesome. I think that was one of those things I wasn't expecting him to have to use that, because he did have a little bit of that Terminator feel where he's just walking through people like they didn't even exist. And so, I heard
this on another review too. So it's not my own thought, but I guess there is a storyline where he gets addicted to essentially its own version of Venom steroid, and then he has to kick it clean. And I think this was before Bane himself came around or something like that. And I'm sure anyone else can correct me, but I don't know the comic storylines. I just heard someone else reviewing it, but that could
luckily there's only like 500 of them.
Well, that could be an interesting through point of the second movie essentially. Is it he's out there fighting crime, but he's burning the candle so much at both ends that he's going down a rabbit hole essentially.
Yeah. I will say something that surprised me and I loved, because this isn't something we've gotten to see in any other film, is the Batsuit actually degenerate, just get basically mangled and destroyed throughout the film. Seeing the actual battle damage on it, because Christian Bale's Batsuit, other than when he got bit by a dog in The Dark Knight Rises, that thing never changed. Or he got a brand new suit and then it never changed.
The batarang being the knife magnetically to his chest.
It's not even a batarang. It's literally just the crest, and he's like, yeah, it's a knife too. I'm like, okay. But I loved how it wasn't just a suit with like, here's some pellets. It's like, no, they're different size pouches that all hold different things. And
he's like, I got a flare in here,
like you would expect. And I'm like, I really dig that. That to me was the Year One vibes, all that kind of stuff.
And he had gauntlets with the, like, you could see the poles. Were those
we'll talk about
projectiles of some kind? Was he using them as armor?
We'll talk about the gadgets
both?
in a second, because I definitely want to bring up one of my favorite things about the entire movie. But I will say one of my surprises is having the Selena, Kyle, Carmine, Falcone relationship, and having Carmine be her father. I had heard possible rumblings that might be a thing, but it still surprised me in the moment, because once you're watching the movie, a lot of those rumors and things fall at the wayside until it's in front of you. And I thought that was so interesting. It really brought both characters into the forefront of the story and of the mystery. And this definitely just feels like a box of riddles that we keep unpacking with like every 10 minutes that goes by. And I think that was actually one of my favorite moments.
Yeah. To build on that, also the backstory of young Bruce watching his dad operate on Falcone on the table in the house it linked that relationship back a long ways. Bruce was aware of Falcone for a long time, and even as a kid. And I love that he made the comment about his dad
taking the Hippocratic Oath.
Being a good man. He goes, no, it just means he took the Hippocratic Oath, and then walked away from him. It was good, but I also loved how the mayor approached him and told him that he could be doing more for the city. because he's a billionaire and he's basically been doing nothing. He's turned himself into a recluse, but every night for the last 2 years he's been fighting crime. And then, his journaling at the beginning, and where he's the background narration where he's talking about how he'd started, if he didn't write it down, he'd start to lose track of everything.
And then he talks about how he hates the fact that he has to force himself to rewatch some of it. Like that opening is what sold me on the film immediately. Like I told Jesse when I first saw it, I said this may be my favorite film of all time because of how much the stuff that lends itself to this film means to me personally. And honestly, after my second viewing, I still feel that way.
Personal investment has a lot, especially when it comes to IPs and comic book material and things like that, has a lot to do with our overall enjoyment of the movie. Absolutely.
And I think, Jesse, you might have said the same thing to me, where you're like, I think this might be it. I'm like, I told you.
My son came out of the movie, my second son, and my first son said that Robert Pattinson was the best Batman. My second son came out of the movie and said that might be his new number one superhero movie, period. And I was like, the problem is now you have to get into a debate of which one's better and how and why. And the fact that it's in the conversation immediately speaks very highly of the movie.
It validates its own existence, which was an uphill battle, I think, for the movie, because we had just gotten a rebooted Batman recently, and I think a lot of people were like, another Batman.
Well, I think people are worn out on reboots of anything.
A rebooted Batman that's not done yet either, at least until later this year.
We're getting two more Batmans in the same year as this Batman.
Right.
So I think it does muddy the water a little bit. I do want to get on to talking about aesthetics, because that is one of my favorite things about this, whether it be how great Gotham was, the Batsuit itself, which we talked about a little bit.
That was one of the first things I told you, Jesse, because I knew you were big time worried about it, and I'm like, Jesse.
And then I want to talk about the Batmobile and gadgets. First of all, how did you guys feel about Gotham? Because we've now had a Zack Snyder Gotham, we've had a Nolan Gotham, a Burton, Schumacher, and a Matt Reeves Gotham. How does it compare? How does it hold up?
This was Gotham. I told Jesse, I know you were very afraid of what this Gotham was going to be like, and I told you, I'm like, have faith. And then I saw the movie, and I'm like, Jesse, you're going to be happy.
True. Because this is my favorite Gotham. I'll say that without getting into too much detail.
Agreed. Because it felt like its own character. It felt like a familiar city, but still a city of its own. I like the Times Square kind of Gotham Times Square kind of look. I loved how he didn't live in Wayne Manor, and instead he's living in like a penthouse apartment in the Wayne building. And even in there, it's the Gothic arches and spikes, and I'm like, oh, hell yeah.
What I wrote about it, I said it was a beautiful Gotham set to incredible backdrops. When they're on the rooftops and you see the sunrise and the sunset portions, the lighting, the coloring, I love that the bat signal was on the top of an old busted down warehouse and not on the top of the police station.
It wasn't a warehouse. It was a place that was supposed to be one of the renewal buildings.
Oh,
and
yes.
That's what made it even more interesting.
But the use of the bat signal, and I loved in the opening how they're talking about the bat signal as it wasn't just a call for him; it was a warning to the criminals that he's out and about.
And the way they all look at the shadows,
the heavy. So one of my favorite movies, I love the Matrix movies, but for the third Matrix movie, they set up this rig that made it rain excessively heavy, and I loved how heavy all the rain was in the movie. Like, it wasn't just sprinkling and a little wet; it was torrential downpour. It was either clear skies or torrential downpour, and like a typical coastal type of city, it gets it basically every 15 minutes. It shifts the weather. There wasn't a wasted scene. The view from Falcone's kind of inner room within the club had the view of the city in the background of the highway behind it, and you could see cars coming over. There was no wasted shots in this. It was all beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
Sean, how'd you feel about Gotham?
Agreed.
Agreed.
I don't know if I had. First of all, the part about the bat signal in the sky and seeing the utter fear on the criminals' faces, just staring at the darkness. They played that beautifully at how far he had come to essentially cement himself as the boogeyman. Waiting in the darkness. He is the darkness. You know what I mean?
Baba Yaga.
Yes. But yeah, Gotham. I mean, I don't know. Because I recently watched the Dark Knight trilogy like in the last week, and so I don't feel like this Gotham was any more than that one was. But I feel like that there was other aspects that made it so. I don't know. It was.
In Riddler's words, I feel like this one, maybe aesthetically, like structurally wise, it didn't feel that different, but it felt like more of a cesspool, whether it be with the way it was shot or how the crime felt and how dark it was and how the torrential downpour, like Scott was saying. All those things put together can make a similar setting feel more gothic. And I think that was part of it, because there's so much daylight in the Nolan trilogy, just blue skies, shining, things look polished, except for when you got like down on the streets and stuff. And that threw me off, because I grew up obviously with Tim Burton's, and I was like, well, this is a gothic hellhole, and I wanted that back. And I feel like we got that in a slightly more realistic tone with this movie.
So in the Nolan franchise, everything's either super clean or super trash. And in this one, it's like everything, even the nice stuff, is dingy, which felt more normal, but not like broke down dingy like the Burton side. I think this, you hit the nail on the head. It was a better blend, to where when you transitioned from the high end part of the city to the low end part of the city, it didn't feel like you were in a completely different town. Like, this is just another little cluster of Gotham. And
walking through the orphanage, I think, helped with some of that too. That lets you really feel what poverty looked like in Gotham.
They also did a good job of showing how drops were affecting people when they went to the orphanage, and there's a whole cluster of addicts hidden out inside that place. And that's a real thing in cities, and where you have drug houses. You know, that stuff is realistic. It happens in Seattle, not far.
Here, to be honest, yeah.
I didn't feel like we saw much of the high end of the city. We weren't, yeah, it could be, but it's also because of Bruce's station in life currently, where he's not the billionaire playboy at the moment. So he's not going to those fancy parties like you see in Batman Begins and stuff like that.
All the wealth in Gotham seems crooked. So I think,
exactly. Yeah. It all seems like it has to do with crime, not necessarily, socialites and stuff like that.
The nicest part of Gotham was Falcone's apartment area, whatever you want to call it,
penthouse area of the 44 below, or where it was.
I did like that also with slightly off topic, but since we were just mentioning it, I love that Bruce was not in a position to really understand how to use Bruce, or Batman didn't know how to use Bruce. Whereas as he gets older and leverages that, he realizes that being the billionaire is a way to get in and to understand and to infiltrate other areas. And right now he's so focused on being Batman, he hasn't figured out how to use his actual identity as a means to improve his position.
Yeah,
he needs Bruce for relationships.
And that's kind of what I touched on earlier when you're like, there wasn't enough Bruce. I'm like, no, that was perfect. Because of that reason, he doesn't know how to use them. So why would you try to shoehorn in more Bruce when he's not the Bruce we know, and he doesn't?
But now we can expect it. Moving forward, we can now expect to get Bruce and a damn haircut.
I don't think when I said that, I don't think that it was a matter of they used it incorrectly in the movie or there wasn't enough in this movie. It just left me wanting more. I want more of Bruce as far as development. So definitely, when you walk out of a movie and you're immediately like, where's part 2? Like, I would like to watch the second one of these today. That's a good thing, and I don't think they misused Bruce at all. I think, like you said, it was spot on. I wanted more, as in I just want more of the character. I want to see that develop, see that grow, because that is a huge part of him as Batman matures in his position. He really does utilize Bruce Wayne as a means to fight crime.
Yeah.
He learns how to use his billions as a positive.
And that's one of my cons in the movie, but I think that could be just me struggling with separating what I wanted to see versus what the filmmaker was showing us, and because that is it. Now I can criticize. I feel like a few of the scenes where we did actually get Bruce, and it was just like hair in front of his face on purpose, so they were trying to get extra moody with us.
No, I disagree.
That was their.
Let him have his point first.
Calm down. But that was their choice with his style, I guess, and I just meant they were trying hard at being emo, and so I just felt like that was a little disingenuous when I was watching it. But not that we didn't get much Bruce, and that's where it's me coming to terms with where I wanted like a scene at the end where all of a sudden he's in front of a TV camera holding a press conference, like, hey, I'm going to clean up, like I need to turn this place around. He has his haircut and he's ready to go to work, type of thing. But that's not the story they're telling. So maybe that'll come down the line. Hopefully, maybe, because that's kind of where I wanted it. But that's not, I mean, that's on me. That's not on what they were trying to show.
I mean, Jesse and I talked about this the other day. Robert Pattinson even came out. He's like, I look forward to exploring Bruce down the line, but that's not what this story is.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And ultimately, I disagree with some of your point, because when you look, you got to remember who Reeves even said before the movie came out, who his Bruce Wayne is slightly based off of, and that's Kurt Cobain. So you factor that in. So it's the struggle. Yeah, I didn't view it as trying hard to be
devil's advocate a little bit. Just because it's what the director wanted and what he succeeded in doing doesn't mean it is the flavor for everybody. So it's perfectly fair for people not to be into that. And I think the way, because I had a very similar conversation with my wife, where she's like, oh, I hate the hair. And I was like, I think it is somebody that is not used to being responsible for their appearance.
Right.
That hides away.
They say he's a recluse. So yeah, that's what I was getting to.
Falcone, who is a very well-known criminal who hides out on a regular basis, says you're the only person in the city more reclusive than me. Mm-hmm. So it is definitely Bruce that we have not seen before, and the closest, honestly, would be Michael Keaton, because he was not a upfront Bruce Wayne either. There's almost like legends about him. It's like, oh, you hear about this guy Bruce Wayne when they're walking around his mansion, and people didn't even know what he looked like. He was that rich, and he had people in his house that when he started talking to him, they didn't know it was Bruce Wayne. So I think that's kind of what we're getting there. But I agree with Sean. I want to see that shift and transition moving forward. We talked about the suit quite a bit throughout the various other categories that we covered, but I would love to spend a little more time on the Batmobile, because there was a fairly vocal response to it just being a souped out muscle car when the images first started coming out. But when I tell you, pun intended, that thing feels like a bat out of hell coming out of the shadows, it, again, pun intended, revs my engine, and I love it. I'd like to see some upgrades in the future, but I had a really good time with the Batmobile, especially the sound design. How did you guys feel about it? Let's go, Scotty.
I love the Batmobile. It could have been a whole number of things, and I'll be honest, I didn't want a Burton Batmobile. I didn't want a crawler. This is the perfect blend of getting a realistic car that could do it. Now, could he make improvements, change things up? Sure, but I love the turbine on the back. You felt the car. It was loud. He knew how to handle it and drive it, other than stalling it out once. And which even speaks to the fact that it's a real car. You know, I loved it. I thought it was the right kind of fit, because it's also, this is early in his time, but beyond the car, I loved his use of the motorcycle to get around the city. I thought that was way more prevalent. The car was awesome, but Batman traveling and sneaking around, you know, with a helmet on, hiding as Batman, or the Batsuit underneath it all, was genius. and allowed him to get around the city incognito with nobody even noticing what he was doing. Whereas you can't drive around that car with people out not noticing. You can't put a jet engine on the back of it and be like, I wonder if anybody's going to notice what I'm doing. Right. No, the motorcycle allowed him to get around during the day and at twilight and be more incognito. So I liked the car. I actually really was fond of it.
Did you say Twilight? I'm triggered.
Did you say Twilight? Why'd you say that name? And they show a brief scene, or at least they pan over some mechanics materials and tools and stuff where you can tell he's working on the car,
building the engine.
Yeah,
you can see the engine actually. It's the first shot with Alfred. The engine is off on its own block when Alfred walks into the shot.
Right. I was gonna say whether it's him or Alfred doing the work, because obviously Alfred has such of his own agency in this movie, and he's deciphering codes and obviously training Bruce. So I wonder if that he's definitely his handyman in the back end. So that was interesting.
There was a book, a little prequel book that came out that said that he started putting that car together at 16 years old. I don't know how long or what he's done since then, but it's he wanted a fast car and he started making it more and more, for lack of a better word, relentless, I guess. But
it's the comic book Bob Lazar.
It's just a car. It's scary. What's that?
He's the comic book Bob Lazar. Bob Lazar, who's Area 51 fame, got famous for putting a rocket on the back of a car, a jet rocket. So, but it was who would help him build that car? You think Alfred?
I mean,
perhaps training him and raising him up. Yeah.
Let's get into one of the final topics, the one that I'm really excited to actually get into. Gadgets. This is one of the most tech-based Batman that we've had, whether it be the special contact lenses, the grapple hooks, a lot of the things in the suits. What stuck out to you guys, Matt, before we lose you?
Yeah, because Matt's starting to get tired. I like how the grappling hook gun, whatever you want to call it, actually would shoot through people also. And he's able to use that to pull people. I was like, yes. Oh, that's dark. But I love it.
That thing's taking out kneecaps for sure.
Right.
I just kept going, get over here.
It was very interesting to see when he went into the flight suit, how his cape became a part of it and disappeared after this. I was like,
so I had no problem with that, except for the fact that afterwards Lauren was just like, he's a sugar glider. And I was like, no, please stop. And she knew making art.
hey, if Tomb Raider could do it, so can Batman. Just saying. But I think part of the reason I love it is because it shows you, like, hey, this is what he had at first, but us as fans know eventually where that tech gets to become.
Right.
But that's also a practical tech that used, and I love the fact that he also dropped the chute out the back and got sickled by the overpass and just slammed. That was so brutal.
Slammed into the top of the bus and then slammed onto the ground.
It was so brutal that he got up and walked away.
He limped. He limped
because he's
away.
Indestructible.
Well, that reminds me of John Wick 3, him falling and hitting, like, I don't even know how many things on the way down a multi-story building. I was like, no, you're dead. You're not crawling away from that. You're dead.
I will say also, I loved the entire movie being a beautiful blend of old and new tech.
Yes.
Old, kind of crappy. He's using crappy television monitors, old CRT ones in the Batcave to review the video and everything. But then they have plasma screens in other places or LED screens. Cell phone technology is very new, but they had really old, crappy cars. The blend of old and new tech was really well done. But the grappling hooks, like, I loved how that just shot right out of his forearm. Off
it's part of the suit. It's like, no, here.
Talk about.
It's like the thing in Wild Wild West that Kevin Kline has, and it's got his little notebook on it. I was like, cool.
Talk about new tech. How about contact lens live streaming? That and recording, obviously. That was cool. I liked how they
He's got broad range Wi-Fi from anywhere.
Like, it was a little bit of a stretch in technology, but only in the same way that Ethan Hunt can wear, like, any kind of super disguised in the same vein of that. So believable enough for the context of the story. I loved it. I'm a sucker for grappling hooks. That's why Scorpion is the MVP.
I love that Selena uses that to call him. I love that Selena uses the contact lens to call him later. She sets it up strategically with a note for him so that he can see it. And she's wearing the earpiece so that when he finally sees it, they can check in. Because, at the end of that scene, their parting did not go exactly to Batman's plan.
Did anyone, speaking of the earpiece too, because in that scene when they're in the club and she's trying to leave and then she comes face to face with Falcone, you can see her left ear is uncovered. You can tell the piece is not in that ear. And then Turturro's hand reaches up and grips her chin and behind her right ear. And I immediately thought, oh no, he's gonna find out she has the earpiece in. Like she's gonna get found out. It went into
the inner ear.
Yeah,
like it was inside.
Oh yeah. It wasn't like an over ear thing, but still, I thought like if you brush the hair back, you can see that. I was imagining a scene in my head that obviously didn't play out, but I was immediately getting afraid for her safety in that.
Well, I think she was too because she bailed immediately after that. She needed to get out of there quick. And then she gets to the bathroom, starts getting in an argument with Bruce staring in a mirror, and finally is like, okay, I can't, like you're going to get me killed. And she was afraid somebody would look her in the eye and see it.
Yeah.
And we also got to see little mini explosives because I believe that's what he uses on the fire extinguisher at the end. Just a little like stick-on mine thing.
Yep.
I cannot wait to see everything about this level up in the next movie. Some additions to the Batmobile, some new gadgets and stuff. But this is the most I've looked forward to. Not yet. Cool it. This is the most I've looked forward to the continuation of a Batman story. I think, and it was hard to wane me off of Affleck because I was a Batfleck fan, but I'm feeling comfortable. I'm Scott as well, I believe. I'm feeling comfortable in the Bat boots that we're in now, moving forward.
Ooh, so. I love that he's got heavy steps.
Yes,
everywhere he walked.
Oh yeah.
Funk.
I was going to bring that up
points because he's just here.
People started freaking out, like who's coming?
Right.
And he just slow walks in.
When we were talking about action, the stepping to me feels like intentional because it's so slow and dramatic. And it gives us like
you can just
illusion,
the sloshing of the leather and the shoe.
Yeah, it gives an illusion that he's slow or slower. Like he's bulky. But the second he moves, he's like lightning fast. So I feel like it's very deceptive.
If this movie doesn't win an Oscar for sound design,
oh man,
I mean, I don't know what is gonna
sound design. They better win an Oscar for cinematography.
Oh, cinematography, but like you felt everything. Everything was exactly sound with the score. Like it was all so well crafted. But yeah, you're right. The cinematography. The fact that AMC had it flagged as an artisan movie before it was even released, like that movie's beautiful just to look at.
Like AMC, why did you do this?
And then you watch it and you're like, oh, makes sense. Okay.
Well, with that, Sean, is there any other things that you can think of that we haven't covered that need to be covered? Because I feel like it was pretty well-rounded, tackled a lot of bases. Maybe our ratings. If you guys have a rough ratings, like out of 10, just to keep it simple. I think, Scott, you've seen it and you've thought about it. Where are you at right now?
I'm a 9.5. That was my initial response after watching the movie. And I know that seems really high, but the more I've reflected on it, I feel more confident about it. The issues that I had within the movie are incredibly small in the grand scheme of the whole thing. They're nitpicky types things.
Just and little bat mites.
Yeah, they're ridiculous. And as a whole, I walked out of that movie completely satisfied. Sean talked about the expectation. Sometimes you walk into a movie with a really high expectation. And I predicted on this show, on News and Views, that I felt like after watching this, it was going to be my number one standalone Batman movie. and that Pattinson would be my favorite Batman. And I think Pattinson is in the conversation with the best Batmans, might be the best one. And this movie is my favorite Batman standalone movie.
I think no matter how you look at it, both should be in the conversation. Whether or not you're concrete on it, I think Pattinson should be in the conversation of best Batman, and this should be in the conversation of best Batman movie. Now, that does not mean that it has to be for you, but it's worth discussing.
No, so for me, 9.5, because it lived up to everything I wanted from the movie. And at the end, I walked out feeling like I got everything I came to the theater for, plus some. And that's always a rewarding feeling. Always.
Sean, while we have you on screen still for a second, how did you feel about the movie?
Overall, I liked it. I did not like it. I had some. I don't think I'm as high on as everyone else is because of too high of expectations or too high of praise ahead of time.
Could just be different expectations, not necessarily even high expectations. Sometimes you just want something else.
Maybe. And I, like I said, and I hadn't rewatched the Dark Knight trilogy recently, or until recently in a while. And I think in the Dark Knight for a long time was, my favorite Batman movie. But I think Batman Begins, I'm starting to come around that is the better of the three. Heath Ledger pushes the Dark Knight over the hill on a lot of things, but a Batman movie, Batman Begins, I feel like was much better. So this was definitely good. It's not a bad movie in any sense. I would give it in the 8 range, plus or minus a 1.1 or 2 here and there, but it's not. It definitely warrants rewatch for sure, and I can't wait to go see it again. Hopefully in theaters, but if not, then I'll have to wait till it comes out. Comes out at home.
Well, that's only 45 days.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, because HBO Max. So I might not see it again in theaters, just because other movies coming out. And yeah,
you're not going to take your son to it?
No.
It's not going to take his 7-year-old godson to go see the Batman, Matt.
I have a 6-year-old son who wants to go see it, and I was like, nope. not until you're a little older.
What is wrong with y'all? My 7-year-old godson stepped in and ate it up like no issue.
My kid's 8. Spider-Man's his here. I'll take him to every Spider-Man movie. But I don't know about Batman just how brutal this is. But
my parents didn't want me to see The Dark Knight when I was 13, so.
We were watching Creed 2 the other day. It was on TV, and I was sitting there playing on my phone. I didn't even realize it was on TV, but he's sitting next to me on the couch, and he put his tablet down, and he's over there. He's like, "Why is he beating him up?" So he was all into the box. Maybe I'll run through the Rocky franchise with him first. So,
there you go. Well, Matt, what's your score on the 10 Batman?
Out of 10. This, as I said earlier, this is right now my favorite movie of all time. Just because of what Batman meant to me growing up, and just what it means to me in general, and how much it was a part of my life. And this gave me everything that I've wanted from a Batman film since I was a kid. It gave me all the stuff I thought I was ever missing, and yeah, I dug the living.
Go read a comic. That's my message to everyone watching this.
Yes.
Read some Batman comics.
And yes, I took a 7-year-old to it, and he loved it. And it's not many 7-year-olds would sit through a 3-hour movie and not say anything besides his excitement and talk to you like it's like, oh, I think it's this person. I think it's this person. You over here having already seen the movie, like, yeah, kid, I'm so proud of you.
Can I just say, to add on that, you said it was everything you wanted out of a movie, a Batman movie. And the Arkham series of video games are my favorite series of video games ever. And apart from the cowl being different, it's like the suit stepped out of the video game, and I was like, oh man.
And I noticed that's the thing I felt
glorious.
my second viewing, because that second viewing you get to see, it's like, oh, that armor actually does look a little bit more like Arkham's.
Oh, it's got little layers to it across the chest and everything, and the way the just the shape of it, everything. It literally there's a poster of it that's a red and black poster that when that came out for the movie, I was like, they pulled the suit straight out of the game. It's glorious.
Yeah, to wrap up the final thoughts, I put this at about an 8.8 just because I had some qualms here and there with it, but I loved so much of it, where 8.5 seems too low, 9 seems a little too high. However, I almost feel like the sequel to this is built in for me to give it a higher score.
Yeah.
Because the starting point is phenomenal. And I can't wait to see more from this universe. This is the best Batworld for me in live action so far.
I think I'd like to see too. I'd like to see them hold off on that character until the third movie.
So I disagree, and Jesse and I had a conversation about this, and we seem to be on the same page. And it's something that they've hinted at they wanted, and that's Court of Owls. So you kind of have to, if you're doing a trilogy, you have to do that character next, because if you close on Court of Owls, that makes a hell of a lot of sense. Granted, based off of this Radalata video, they hint there isn't a post-credit scene that is not a part of the movie, but a part of you going through this whole thing, and it hints at who that next villain might be.
No, okay.
So I'll be hush about that.
Well played.
All right. Well, with that, we all four of us want to thank you guys so much for joining our extended spoiler discussion/rant discussion breakdown. All in all, we all had a really good time. Can't wait to see more. Would love to hear from you guys. Please, in the comments down below, let us know what you thought about it. Share the video around, like the video, and is Pattinson your favorite? Is this the best Batman movie? We'll leave it up to you guys to decide. But
the answer is yes.
Yes, without a doubt.
All around. So thank you guys so much for joining us until our next review, which is probably maybe going to be the first episode of Moon Knight. And then we get to see, can't wait, Morbius. But no, not really. Anyways, talk to you guys later. Keep it real. It's been fun. Sean's camera sucks. Bye.